All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Kabbalah Café. So today's topic is, what was it? Spiritual subterfuge. That was the topic. That is the topic, spiritual subterfuge. And we have a lot to talk about in this topic. So I'll say this. Right out of the gate, we've been studying this text for the sake of heaven, all for the sake of heaven. Got to read the fine print also. This has been the topic of our learning for several months now. I don't know. I don't recall the exact date that we started this. I could look it up, certainly in the emails. But it's been going on for, it's got to be at least 6 months, if not longer. And at the core of it is the story, one of the most confusing, one of the most bizarre, one of the most even troubling, dare I say, stories in the Torah, which is where Jacob dresses up like his brother and takes the blessings that his father had wished to give to his older twin brother, Esau. And when you read that story, I mean, how many times have people asked me that question? I know I'm asking this rhetorically. Many times is the answer. People have asked me, like, how does this make sense? Like, how is this something that we, what does it say about our forefather, our patriarch Jacob, that he's like so underhanded and so, duplicitous and treacherous and sneaky and, all that dishonest, keep on adding on to things. And his father even says, at some point, his father can't see. He's blind. Different opinions as to how he lost his sight. Either way, some say that as he was being bound on the altar, when his father put him up on the altar, didn't take his life, but the angels in heaven were crying because of the great self-sacrifice that they were demonstrating, and a tear from the angels dripped into Isaac's eye. And that took away his sight. I guess tears of angels are a little bit more potent than little Visine action. Does Visine exist? Did I just make up a product? It does exist. All right, thank you. Good. So, different opinions. Some say that his Esau's wives' idolatrous practices with their incense burning and smoke, whatever, that affected his eyesight. Whatever. I don't know. I wasn't there. These are various ideas that are floated throughout the Midrasha text. What I do know is that when you read the story, it sounds a little troubling. Here you have a son who's our patriarch Jacob, who goes ahead and takes advantage of the fact that his father can't see, and takes advantage of his brother, who seems to be in good faith, trying to do what his father asked him, which is hunt an animal and prepare food for him. And in the meantime, mother and son, Rebecca and Jacob, they hatch a plot, or Rebecca's plot, but then, Jacob fulfills it, to essentially steal / take the blessings. And it's a little bit disturbing. When I say disturbing, if you think about it just like very simplistically or whatever it is, or don't think about it too much, okay. The good guys won. Why? Because, I don't know, because he got the blessing. It's all good. But if you think about it, it seems a little weird. And then we know, of course, and all of these things we've been discussing over the last several months. And of course, and the reason why I'm mentioning kind of this arc is because today the puzzle pieces are finally going to come together. This is almost like the part in the novel, as it were, Lahavdil, right? The part in the book where suddenly it's like, oh, I got it. It's all, now I see it. Now it all makes sense. But let me just set up the tension before we get to the resolution. True, this is a theme throughout Jacob's life. He's called Jacob Yaakov because as he's born, he's holding onto the heel of his brother. And as I mentioned before in previous sessions, and as the sages mentioned, it's because he wanted to pull his brother back in. It doesn't really work like that, but he was trying to get out first. He wanted to be the firstborn. He then buys the rights of the firstborn from his brother on a day that his brother is really hungry. The day that their grandfather Abraham passed away. Esau's out in the field hunting, comes back in, he's famished. Jacob's preparing lentils, which is the traditional food of mourning. Lentils are round, symbolize the cycle of life. And so he says, I'll give you the lentil beans or soup or whatever it is, the cholent. I'll give it to you if you sell me your birthright. Who does that? It's your brother. Give him some food. You have food. He's your brother. Give him your right. Like, or a sibling.
I always thought that was such a scumbag move. Honestly.
Right? It's a little bit of a, and again, but when you're Team Jacob and you're not thinking about it too much, it's like, yeah, well, of course he did that. He took the, and then you're like, well, one second. What's going on here? Trying to grab his heel, right? I'll only give you food if you sell me your birthright. And then when it comes to the time, the blessing and and their father Isaac says to Esau, I'm going to give you the blessing of the Bechar, of the firstborn son. And Jacob and Rebekah hatch a plot. Or Rebekah and then ropes in Jacob to this plot of, no, you're going to get the blessings by dressing up and appearing to be your brother. Okay. Again, it raised a lot of questions. It raised a lot of questions of essentially propriety. Like, doesn't seem so kosher. It doesn't seem so honest. And this is our patriarch, Jacob. That's like, and B'nai Yisrael, the children of Israel. Who's Israel? Not the land Israel. Children of Israel is a guy. Israel is Jacob. Jacob is Israel. Same guy who got a new name after he wrestled with the angel and won. So children, we don't say the children of Abraham. I mean, we could, but we don't. Or children of Isaac. Children of Israel. And who's Israel? Israel's the guy that's always angling. Always kind of like. So the big idea of this text, the huge idea, and I have the right copies today. Thank God. Remember last week I kind of ran out of the right pages? Anyway, so the big idea of this text that we're going to read inside today is that on a spiritual level, because of course this is a Kabbalah class, so we're looking at everything through a much deeper lens. Not necessarily a lens of, people that lived once upon a time, but through the lens of what this means for our lives today. And what this means for us is that sometimes you have to act in a way that is less than upfront, less than forward, less than transparent, in order to get the resources that you need. That does not sound right. But you'll see what I mean in a second. Because the resources that we're speaking of are not physical resources. It's the spiritual resources. To get the spiritual sparks that are embedded in the physical reality, sometimes you need to misrepresent your intentions. And so that's what we're going to get to today. And this is the ultimate culmination of literally months of exploring this topic from a bunch of different angles. Today, the puzzle pieces literally are going to snap together. So let's talk about
Sounds like you're like Mondani, misrepresent your intentions.
Well, hold on, one second. So what we're going to do here is explain this spiritually. Again, are we explaining this on practically on the ground? I don't know. We'll have to decide if this is going to work for us on the ground. But on a spiritual level, let's explore this for a second. First of all, we need to understand, what are the sparks of holiness that we're talking about? What are these sparks of divinity that we are after? And so here's how this works. Kabbalah speaks extensively, specifically in Lurianic Kabbalah, the teachings of the Arizal, about the notion of the shattering of the vessels, Shvirat HaKelim. How you had a world called Tohu, a world of chaos, where the lights were strong and the vessels were small, and the light shattered the vessels. And the shards of those vessels, if you can imagine dropping a beautiful glass vase and it breaks into 1,000 different pieces, the sparks or the broken shards fall down below, and they're embedded within the fabric of the physical universe. So it's almost like imagining, you can almost picture it if your mind is wants to get a little creative. Imagine like this explosion or implosion, and there's shards of light. My picture is glass, but whatever, shards of light that are then, falling down and embedded deep within every physical thing. So the earth itself has these sparks of holiness. a table, a piece of wheat turned into a bagel. Everything has a spiritual spark. And that spark constitutes its true essence of what it is and also its purpose. But the way it works in the physical reality, and we can relate to this because it's mirrored within our personal microcosmic being, is that the soul, the spark shard that's inside of every physical thing is surrounded by a layer of physicality and materialism that essentially renders the spark inside, the nitzutz, that's the Hebrew word for spark, the nitzutz, the spark inside, it renders it not visible to the naked eye. Which means that when you look at a thing, you won't see the spark inside, you'll see the outside, not the inside. And when I say that we can relate to it on a microcosmic level, is because you and I have the same reality. Inside all of us is a soul. But none of us around the table, when we look at each other, see the soul immediately. Now, we know we can extrapolate that there's a soul, because how else would we be alive? What else would animate us? Because we've all, unfortunately, Lo Elenu, we've all seen the difference between a live person and a deceased and a dead body. And we know that when a person passes away, it could very well be that their entire body is completely intact with no wounds, no visible trauma, etc. Right? It could be. And a moment before they're alive, they were breathing, and a moment later, they're no longer. And when you think about, well, there's nothing changes on the outside between moment A and moment B, nothing physically on the outside to the eye changes. So what changed? What changed is that there's no longer life pulsing and coursing through that body. And it's not just the heart is no longer beating or the respiration or the brain activity. It's not just that. There's something deeper than that. There's a soul. So you and I can well relate to the concept that there's a soul, that there's a soul inside, but covered by an exterior that renders the soul inside not visible to the naked eye. So you can't see it, but we know it's there. So in a very similar way, Kabbalah teaches that everything has a soul. Not only humans have a soul, not only animals have souls, vegetation has a soul. Trees have a soul. Rocks have a soul. Now you might be thinking, a rock has a soul? What kind of soul does a rock have? It doesn't move. It doesn't walk. It doesn't talk. It doesn't grow. It just sits there still. Rocks are definitely dead. And Kabbalah says, dead? They're not dead. If they exist, they have a soul. That's the rule of thumb. Rock and roll. Exactly. Right, exactly. Rocks, right, now you got me thinking, rocks have soul, right? Maybe two different genres. But rocks have a soul. The Arizal famously said, Afilu even domem, even a stone that is still and silent, has a nefesh, has a soul. It doesn't have a human soul, right? Everything has a soul on its level. So a soul for a stone or a rock makes it a stone or a rock. The soul of a tree makes it a tree. The soul of an animal makes it an animal. The soul of a human makes it a human. Meaning it contains the powers and abilities that are uniquely human. That's why when it comes to reincarnation, which is a topic unto itself, and it talks in Kabbalah about the possibility, not that it's necessarily frequent, the possibility of a soul having been reincarnated 3 times and still not fulfilling its mission. It could then become reincarnated in other life forms. It's tremendously painful for the soul. Can you imagine a human soul stuck in a non-human life form? And how frustrating that would be. And unfortunately, I was by a Shiva house last night. And the young woman who lost her father was talking about how he had a neurological, no, it was like a disease for the last year. And he slowly couldn't do more and more. He lost his ability to move, then he lost the ability to talk, then his ability to see, just things kept up. You realize this, and he was able to understand, able to communicate through his eyes at the end. I was like, okay. And it's the tremendous suffering. You can imagine tremendous, and on so many levels. But on one level, the tremendous suffering is, imagine a human being. Again, we should never imagine a human being who has awareness and wants to, but can't, is almost trapped inside. Imagine a human soul.
Sounds like ALS.
Yeah, I don't know if it was, but it's a similar concept. But imagine a human soul. Hey, good to see you. Welcome. Hey, good to see you. Welcome.
I have to hide from you. I can't miss this big Chevy that's just parking.
Welcome. Good to see you guys. Let's get you guys in two together down there.
You know what I'm getting up there.
You're getting it? Okay.
There you go.
Oh, here we go. You guys want to sit over here? Oh, perfect. Thanks, Mark. Okay, Rob, we'll see you.
Sorry.
No worries. Perfect.
Me, Natalie?
Hey, Natalie, nice to meet you. Welcome. All right, so imagine a human soul. You walked in right now to a little reincarnation discussion. Imagine a human soul being reincarnated in a non-human life form.
How does it enter the soul? Like, I'm just like thinking.
How does the soul enter?
If the soul gets
It's a punishment.
sent
Yeah.
into a rock,
Yeah.
how does it ever get out of there? I mean, like a human pass out, 120 years, the soul departs.
I don't know.
When do you depart from the
The
rock?
same God that can put in a human soul into a non-human life form can also take it out. In other words, if you understand that direction, then you'll understand the other direction. I don't understand.
I need more specifics, Rabbi.
One second. And Odette, and it makes sense that a human soul comes into a human body. That also doesn't make sense. Just because it has the same word doesn't mean we understand it. I understand your question.
Right.
That's the long answer. The short answer is I don't know. But I'm very well aware that there's a lot of things that that will never.
Fruit and stuff like that. They say that when people say blessing on that, they actually elevate them. So maybe that's
Could be.
If your soul is departed in the fruit, then
Right.
when somebody blesses the fruit before they eat it, maybe the soul departs.
Maybe. I'll tell you this. In Kabbalah, in the Ari Sollish Kabbalah, it says that it's a form of punishment.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's if the soul has its purpose, and then it doesn't fulfill its entire purpose. So it has a few opportunities to come back and fulfill its purpose. If it still doesn't, after like 3 times, it says then there's a possibility that it can come to non-human form. And the pain of the soul being trapped in a human soul, trapped in a non-human form, that pain itself is the tikkun, is the healing,
The refining
the
moment.
refinement. I mean, look, how is iron or steel or metal refined? Through heat. That's it. Sometimes it's like. Anyway, I don't know how we got here. This is a really dark piece of conversation. But back to the normative story. Everything has a soul. Humans have souls, and stones have souls. Hopefully, not human souls. A stone should have a stone soul. A tree should have a tree soul. An animal should have an animal soul. A human should have a human soul. Right? Everything needs to have the soul. But the point is, just like all life force has a soul, there's also divine energy within everything that exists in the form of the nitzots, the spark that descends from on high at the shattering of the vessels. And those sparks are within everything, so including this. What is this little wording? Caution, content. Okay, good. 3 languages. All right, we'll be careful. Including in this raspberry tea, right? That I have in front of me. There is a spark. There's an energy, a divine spark inside of it. And the purpose of life, as explained in Kabbalah, is literally to go around, to live our lives, encounter things, physical things that have sparks inside, utilize, engage, and behave with those things in a way that speaks to a higher purpose, thus elevating the sparks inside, reconnecting it with its source, and if we want to gamify this, passing, beating that level of the game. That's what it is. Meaning, you thought Super Mario Brothers was a game that really is conducive for the Game Boy. Remember I had an OG Game Boy. Yeah. You too?
Yeah, and the Sega one too.
Oh, I didn't have Sega.
Game Gear.
I didn't have Sega. Game Gear, yeah. I didn't have Sega. I had the OG.
Sega was like the best. That was like
You had a Sega?
It was like Sonic. I had the old Nintendo.
Oh, Sonic. I remember that. I was like old school. Who remembers the original NES Duck Hunt?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you remember that?
I probably saw it in my parents' house.
Really? That might be valuable. Should look into that.
Like, the thing is, like, it stopped reading those little cassettes.
Yeah, we have to blow on it.
Before my time.
Apparently. Well, listen. Kids these days. Look, here's the point. Everything. Oh, you know what? You know what's in now? Cassette tapes.
What?
Cassette tapes are in. Legit. Cassette tapes are back.
But they deteriorate. It's not like a good quality.
Hey, Ivan, good to see you. I'm telling you, cassette tapes are back in. It's Meshuggah. We got rid of cassette tapes because it was the worst. Remember, you would put in a cassette tape, you pull out at some point, and the whole thing was out. Like, okay.
Also, if you pull an old cassette,
you have to turn it back in, and you're like, I guess this is not going to work anymore. Great.
It deteriorated. The quality deteriorates over the years.
CDs were also terrible. I would buy my kids in the car for those DVDs, right? $20. Oh, great. We're going on a road trip. $20 for Barney Goes to the Zoo. Fantastic. It'll give them 35 minutes of entertainment. But you know what? I'll spend the money. 3 seconds later, it's scratched beyond repair. I'm putting toothpaste on. Who remembers these different
You
cures?
got the little machines.
Oh, yeah. The machine, the buffer machine. You put it in, the wet dry bag.
How's it going to read it? Because it's not clear.
And it never works.
It never works.
It was the worst. And then I remember reading an article in Wire magazine. It was like solid state, like chips. Because at that point, up until that point, the only way to read media was if something was moving. Mm-hmm. Whether it was a record or reel to reel or a cassette tape something had to be moving. There had to be something spinning. And then it's like, no moving parts. Can you imagine a world in which it can read information, data, without any moving parts? No, it can't be. Solid state drives. No way. Here we are.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Thank you, Israel.
Really? Was that? Can we just say thank you, Odette, as a representative of the...
Specifically, has nothing to do with that, but proud to say that that's what always excites me when they say we boycott Israel, whatever. I said, please boycott every technology that is...
Hand it all back in.
And go back to the Stone Age. That's fine.
Right, yeah.
Speaking of the Stone Age...
Before Israel.
Right. Speaking of the Stone Age, everything has a soul.
Sitting in the same...
That was a nice segue, right? So the tea has a soul. The bagel has a soul. The lox have a soul. Everything has a soul.
You know, it seems so way out, but it's getting me. I mean, like preparing chicken. I was thinking, my gosh, if this has a soul, I'm eating it. You know, I'm going to eat it. It's really.
I'll tell you this. Kabbalah says not only do animals have souls, we're chickens, but also a vegetable has a soul. A plant has a soul. A stalk of wheat has a soul. Which means that if you're concerned about the soul of something, you would never cut anything that was living. Not even a flower. Not even a stalk of wheat. The only justification, in other words, the only justification for taking a life, as it were, is because you're going to elevate it to a state higher than its original state. Is only because you're going to utilize it for its intended purpose, higher intended purpose, and thereby connect its spark soul to its source, which it can't do on its own. Because the stalk of wheat cannot elevate itself, but a human being, having turned that stalk of wheat into some flour, into some sourdough, that you're going to use for your challah. Whatever happened to challah? Challah doesn't exist. It's like, trends, challah out, sourdough in. Trending across Shabbat tables, across the US of A. Boom, sourdough. My wife makes an exceptional sourdough.
It sure does.
I will say. Anyway, it's also like a 2-day process.
I think 3, yeah.
It's 3? Yeah, I don't know.
It's like,
honestly, it's like There's like feedings.
It's nursing.
You got to feed it. You got to feed it. Then there's the stretch and fold period every 20, 30 minutes. There's this whole thing. You're working the... Anyway, it's very elaborate. I've had to step in at some points. There have been times where, depending on when it was started, it went into the car with us. We were once in Sababas at the kosher burger place in Togo. And it's in the trunk of our car. And she's going out to stretch and fold every 20 minutes in the trunk of the car. This is what's going on. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. Back to the story. Everything has a soul. But not just a soul, a spark that is intended. Oh, let's get back to video games. So, like that's what we're doing here, right? It's all about video games. So, in Super Mario Brothers, whatever, the little character has to collect coins. It's funny because that's kind of what Kabbalah says about life. That life is a journey in which there's a spark, coin, not a coin, but a spark, within everything around us. And the purpose of life is to find it and capture it, as it were, recapture it and reconnect it. And the way we do that, as we've said in this text previously, is he mentioned two things, which are two of the core physical activities, not exclusive, but two of the core physical activities that we engage in on a day-to-day basis: eating and drinking and going to work. Those are the two things that he mentions. And he says that when you eat and drink, there is an energy, there's a soul spark inside the food, waiting to be accessed, waiting to be elevated, and that's where we come in. And so the food and the drink that we eat and drink is not just a physical experience, it's a higher experience, it's an elevatory experience when done correctly. Now, it's possible for a person to get so lost in the physicality of the event where there's no elevation happening at all, right? This is not an elevation experience / elevation world tour. Hey, Toba, good to see you. No worries. You're right on time. Toba, you want this? I got you right over here.
That's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Toba, but the only condition is if there's any hard questions, I pass them to you.
Sure. I'm ready for it.
All right. So with the one caveat that not everything that we eat are we automatically elevating. It's not like an automatic default thing. It requires at the core of it intentionality. That's the most important piece of it, intentionality. And a person might say, intention, who cares what I'm thinking? It's like we live in a world of action. What am I doing? And yet Kabbalah says that's where, I don't know if the right word is the rubber meets the road. Maybe that's, that's, I say the proof is in the pudding, but I don't know. It's more like the spark is in the pudding. But how do we know that we're accessing it? It's by intention. That's the bottom line. It's by intention. So you could have two people engaging in the same physical activity, but one of them has the mindfulness, and one of them has the presence of mind and the presence of space and the presence of soul to engage in this experience for a higher purpose, and is thus accessing the spark and elevating. The other one is just lost in the physical activity of eating.
Are we the only things that can act as vehicles?
Yes. Because no other creature has that mindfulness and that awareness and the ability to choose. Everything is stuck in its nature in life. Great story with Maimonides, the great Rambam, where he was debating another philosopher of his time about the intelligence of animals. And Maimonides, as Judaism teaches, posited that humans have a different type of intelligence than animals. This guy said, no, animals trained the right way can be as intelligent as human beings. And he says, and to prove it to you, I'm going to train cats, not Yankel cats, but no, the feline, right, cats, to serve as waiters in an upcoming banquet that I will throw. And indeed, in a month's time, there was a little banquet that this guy threw for Maimonides and invited a few friends, and there were cats standing on their back legs. Anybody have a cat? Yeah? No? You guys know what cats are? Yeah? They're standing on, we think? Huh? Everyone's dog people? All right. Standing on the back legs, paws, whatever, with a little platter of food walking around. Maimonides says, that's so cute, and then pulls out a mouse from his pocket and drops it on the floor. And the mouse, I don't know how he had a mouse in his pocket. Details, whatever. It was in a box. drops it on the ground, and what do you think the cats did?
And the party started.
Then the party started. Platters of food were flying because at the end of the day, an animal doesn't really have choice. You can train an animal, but doesn't have the ability to really transcend its nature. Humans have the ability, not that we always act on this ability, but we do have the ability to completely transcend who and what we are. At the core of it, we have the ability to transcend that. You're in a lousy mood, you can smile, and you can act friendly, even if you're not feeling it, and you can really want to not help your friend out on a Sunday because you'd rather go play golf. I don't know if that's a thing. People golf on Sundays, maybe. But instead, you're going to help out your friend. You're going to do the thing that's the right thing, even though it's not the thing that you want to do. I'm not saying we always do it, but we have the ability to do it. No other form of life has the ability to completely, transcend or deny or flip its nature like humans do. And so the idea of that type of transformation is uniquely human. The ability to go into an experience like eating with a higher intentionality is uniquely human. Not that we always do it, but we have the ability to do it. And so that's why we are the only, like to your question, we're the only creatures on earth that can serve as the vehicle for this type of transformation. That's why God created Adam and Eve and said, your job is to rule over the world, is to rule over the earth. And people say, that sounds so ugly, like rule over, dominate the world. What does that mean? Only if you're thinking in despotic, and corrupt terms. But otherwise, we know what God is really telling Adam and Eve. You are custodians of the earth. Yeah, your job is to elevate this. Everything is waiting for you. Your job is to elevate everything. If you fail, this whole mission fails. Like everything's going to be looking to you. You can't pass the buck on this one. This is why we're here.
Two quick things. So one, to the story about Maimonides, Siegfried and Roy is a great example. They trained cats, big ones, and 4 years, maybe 20 years.
Yeah.
They worked great. One day they forgot to feed the thing and it mauled one of them. So yes,
I think Roy.
This animal stays an animal, even though it's been trained for 20 years to do whatever it was doing.
Do you know that after that horrific episode, they did not blame the tiger? They themselves did not.
Yeah, they forgot to feed.
They said we must have messed up something.
Right, but the animal is an animal.
Animal's an animal.
Doesn't matter. This was his owner. Turned on it.
Yeah.
The second thing is a question. So if one does any activity and is not mindfully thinking about elevating the food that he's eating or whatever, and then goes and do a good deed or study Torah or whatever, how does that work?
It works.
Did he still elevate what he did before, even though he didn't do?
Tanya, in one of the early chapters of Tanya, he says that if you eat and drink or whatever it is without the mindful intention in the moment, but you end up using the energy that you got from the food or beverage for a higher purpose, then you do ultimately elevate the sparks in the food. Yeah, retroactively. You did it. But that's not the ideal. You got it in. But the ideal is to do it mindfully and intentionally. Because really what's happening is that at the end of the day, the energy that's fueling you is being converted into, it's like you're burning those calories while studying Torah, while doing a mitzvah, while praying to God. So you're actually using that energy that you got from the food for a higher purpose. So there is that objective elevation that's happening, but it still doesn't render the act of eating a higher experience. It was still a bodily experience completely without the mindfulness. It's only that at the end of the day, the energy was used. So you still get that elevation, but the experience was a missed one for a higher gift.
Yeah. Well, Maimonides, didn't he also, I remember reading that the elevation, like in eating, came from the mindfulness, like not being a glutton, but to be able to control yourself so that you eat as much as you need and you don't keep on eating and eating.
What's great is that Maimonides doesn't write that from a spiritual perspective. He writes that as a physician.
It's an elevation.
He says, eat to a certain point of being satisfied, and then don't eat past that certain point. He talks about how, like a diet, there's somebody who once reached out to me when I was back in publishing, back in Brooklyn, and he was writing a book called The Maimonides Diet or something like that. A diet based on Maimonides' teachings about physical health and eating. Interesting. So yeah, he talks a lot about that, but not necessarily from the spiritual perspective, but more from a health perspective. Not that they wouldn't align, but just different angle. Maimonides, in his works, you don't find a lot of Kabbalistic terminology. He wasn't, overtly, he wasn't like, obviously or apparently a mystic, but there's a lot that kind of is discussed in Kabbalah as aligning with his ideas. All right, so let's get back to this core idea. So the core idea is that we are here for a simple purpose, not easy, but simple, straightforward purpose, which is to elevate the sparks around us. Oh, so there's two activities that are discussed. Eating and drinking is one, and then work is the other. And so we spent the last few weeks talking about both. And work specifically, what does it mean, work? Work is in all of the areas of work. Number one, going to work itself and doing the work that we do, that itself, there's meaning and purpose in that. Even if a person says, my job, I don't enjoy my job, or maybe it's a challenge or struggle, whatever it is, there's still value, there's still a spark in that activity. Everything that we do, everything that we're engaged in has a spark and a purpose. And the more challenging it is sometimes, the harder it is to find the spark, but there's a spark in that experience as well. That's number one. Number two, the resources that we get from the work that we do, right? The money we earn and the other, before we get to the money, the relationships that we make alongside our work, that also holds tremendous spark potential. The people we meet in the context of our work are people that God has intended to cross paths with us. And therefore, there's something about those people that can inform our lives and our spiritual purpose. So in every conversation, there might be an opportunity to inject something positive, something hopeful, something, maybe even divine or godly. Depends on, I'm not saying you should necessarily give a Dvar Torah, you give a Torah thought to every conversation, every work meeting. But you also might, you can also work in somehow, subtly or whatever it is, something that is a little bit higher. And thus you're transforming the landscape of work into something that is also divine and spiritual and holy. And that's a tremendous thing. Something that at its core is very materialistic. To transform it into something spiritual, again, that is a beautiful and unique ability and gift that we have. And then you have the profits, right, that we earn from the work that we have, that we do, which we have the ability to utilize also for a higher purpose by taking a percentage of that and utilizing it for mitzvahs that we do, tzedakah that we give, etc. So these are ways to elevate the work experience, just like we take the food and we take the energy from it and do something positive with it. And we do so mindfully, again, ideally. So this is also the same way, the same way it works with work. The big idea of all of this is, as I started today, there are sparks of holiness that are embedded in these realities, and our job is to find them and extricate them. One other piece that's very important to recognize is that everyone's soul is predestined to unlock, or to have the mission to unlock, certain sparks in certain things within our physical world. It's almost like the soul sparks that I'm meant to interact with, you're not necessarily meant to interact with. That's why Kabbalah says it's futile to look at someone else's resources and possessions and desire them. Commandment number 10 of the 10 commandments, what is that?
Covet.
Do not covet. Why do not covet? So on a physical level, we say, it's not nice, coveting. It's not good to covet. Okay. But on a spiritual level, there's no point. You're coveting someone else's stuff. You can't elevate that. So why would you want it? The stuff that God gives you legally, right, is the stuff that you have a purpose to deal with. The other stuff is not your purpose. So what are you doing? You're running after something that's not yours, that doesn't have sparks that you can unlock. The best example that I've come up with is like the key fob for a car, which I know I've shared in the past. Every soul can unlock certain sparks, but not others. So it's like you have a key fob, right? Or a car, whatever it is, a car remote. So that unlocks your car. It doesn't unlock someone else's car. And I know what you're thinking. What about hot wiring? It doesn't work like that. You can't hot wire the sparks.
Show of hands.
Show of hands. Who was thinking about hot wiring? You cannot hot wire the divine nitzotzot. You cannot hot wire the sparks. It doesn't work like that. Which means that if they're not yours, you can be like, I really want it. What's the point? So again, if we're looking at this from a physical only, through a physical lens, it's like, why do I want it? Because I want it. But from a spiritual lens, the things that we have are for a purpose, to be elevated through our use. And I know we only spoke about food, drink, and work, but everything we have, the table, the couch, the chairs in our home, whatever it is, the oven, all the stuff in all the things we have, they're all there. They all serve a utility, and they can all serve a higher purpose. Every item we own, we come in contact, can serve a higher purpose. This webcam, which follows me around like a well-trained webcam does. Well-trained cat. Until a mouse comes in and throws off the algorithm. It's not just a webcam, my friends. This is AI-powered 4K webcam. Because AI.
That's a good selling point.
Yeah. AI. Let's just add those two letters. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Yeah. So what's the point? Everything that we have can be utilized for a higher purpose. Like this webcam to transmit Torah. We have individuals joining us from California, from Vegas, from where else? And then locally as well, Georgia. Anyway, what's the point? The point is that the stuff that we have, that God has given us, is the stuff that God has intended for us to unlock and elevate. And the stuff that someone else has, it's because they have that mission to unlock and elevate it. If the person gifts it to us, that means by divine intent, it needed another touch. It needed someone else to join in the elevation process. Or if we sell something, it's an indication that it needs someone else. That's why buying and selling, known in Hebrew, the concept of acquisition, kinyan, that concept is it's not a physical concept. It's a mystical concept. It's like the secret of ownership. But something that is not yours, fundamentally, you have nothing to do with it. It doesn't need you. You don't need it. So then don't worry about it. Why are you worrying about something that's not your purpose? Worry about the stuff that is your purpose. There's plenty to think about. There's plenty of stuff and that's within our realm of ownership, as it were. All to say that the experience of living a physical life in this world, seen through the lens of Kabbalah, is really about finding and elevating the sparks that are meant for us. And God guides us along the journey. God guides the footsteps of man. And God guides us to the places, to the people, to the activities that we need to be in order to fulfill our soul's mission and to help fulfill the mission for why that thing exists. See, our mission is not just our own. It's the mission that also fulfills the mission of the things around us. So even if we're not in the mood of having a mindful lunch, do it for the bagel, even if not for you. Because it's been waiting since the beginning of time. That stalk of wheat, that sunlight, that raindrop, that piece of earth, that farmer, all of the hands, literally and figuratively, that touched, that sounds gross, that bagel. You know what? I don't want it now. But all of the energies that were involved in creating that and having it in front of us, there's all potential in that, waiting to be elevated. And our job is to do that elevation. So if not for us, then for it, but also for us. and for it. So where does this leave us? This leaves us with a very interesting reality. And that is, like I said before, you could have two people engaged in the same physical activity, eating a bagel, and one is doing so mindfully and one is doing so not mindfully. And there's two different experiences happening. On a completely gastronomical level, you would say it's the same experience. Two people eating a bagel loaded up with cream cheese, a little tomato, a little lettuce, a little cucumber, and now you're thinking, wow, that would be nice if we added that. Yeah, it would be. And then some lox on top, right? Eating a nice BLT. You know what the kosher BLT is?
Yeah.
Bagels, lox, tefillin. You like that. You like that. Little bagel, lox, tefillin action. Little kosher BLT.
You can't have that.
You can have bagels, lox, tomato. Tzedakah. I don't know. We can figure out some other stuff. Yeah, tzedakah. Torah. Bagels, lox, Torah. There you go. Love it. All right. What's the point? Two people doing the same activity. From the outside observer, because no one knows what's going on in anyone's head, to the outside observer, it's identical. It's an identical experience. And yet, on the inside, there's a completely different reality happening. One person is going down to the level of the bagel. One person is descending into bagel land.
Having two bagels.
No, it's not having two bagels.
That's bad.
It's having a half a bagel, but only to feed the body, not to feed the soul. This is not about guilt, just so you know. This is not intended to be a thing.
Well, that's in a sense how I see it.
Well, hold on. I'm just saying. So two people are eating the same thing. You're taking a bite of a bagel. Maybe we should not talk about bagels because we have bagels here. We should make it a little safer. Whatever. Two people are eating a piece of sushi, right? Two people, one little thing of sushi. And one person is eating it because they're hungry. And one person is eating it because they're hungry and because they think the energy that I'm going to get from this, I'll be able to study Torah or pray or do a mitzvah or smile at someone or whatever it is. Two different experiences are happening. And because of that, everything changes. Everything changes. There's a whole spiritual, reality that's behind door number 2 that's not behind door number 1. The person that's just eating because they're hungry is missing out on that entire elevation, on that entire, symphony of spirit. Whereas the second individual who's doing it in order to elevate the sparks is unlocking this incredible ability. And everything is moving because of it. The heavens are shifting and the sparks are being elevated and it's being accepted. There's a whole magical thing that's happening. And by the way, that's why we recite a blessing before we eat. Not only to thank God for the food, but to get ourselves in the right mindset. So that we not only pause before we eat, but while we're eating with a different mindset. That's a benefit of a blessing. Imagine if someone said to you, hey, there's value in eating mindfully. And to do that, pause for 2 seconds before you eat to get into the right frame of mind. You're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest new age advice ever. This is so cool. I'm going to totally retweet this. And then it's like, yeah, Jews have been doing this for 3,300 years. Oh, boring. I'm kidding. No, we shouldn't say that, right? But it's like, oh, it's part of the liturgy.
You give the example of you being in yeshiva in New Jersey. A couple floors up and down. Example, I think you give that
the fast day, everyone's running to the food.
And you kind of like paused.
Yeah. There's power in the pause, right? As the cats would have told us. Kidding. Different pause. There's power in the Pause. There's power in the pause. There's power in the blessing. And so now we get into the the spiritual subterfuge. Because to the outside, no one knows what you're thinking. To the outside, everyone thinks that you're doing the same activity as the other guy who's just eating it because he's hungry. But meanwhile, you're engaged in the food and in eating the food for a higher intention. This is what it means to be duplicitous, to engage in a little bit of spiritual treachery. Not that you're actually doing anything inappropriate, not that you're engaging in any form of impropriety. No, what's happening here is that you are engaging with the world, but not on its terms, rather on your terms, or more specifically, on God's terms. And so the world says, that's not fair. What do you mean? When you're eating a bagel, it should be only about the bagel. What are you mixing in spiritual meditations? Who does that? The answer is, we do that. Who does that? We do that. But we're not going to come at it with like some sort of, magic experience or some sort of spiritual activity. It's going to be the same physical activity, but done with a different mindset. And you know what that's exactly like? That's like Jacob dressing up in the clothes of his brother Esau, right, and taking the blessings. But it's on the outside. It looks like an Esau activity.
But the difference with that is if you're eating the bagel or drinking whatever, you're not harming anything.
The victim here is, good question. Who's the victim?
Right.
Who's the victim? The victim is the materiality that wants to hold on to its spark. And what you're doing is taking the spark and elevating it. And meanwhile, I didn't really give a consciousness to materialism, but if we were to, which Kabbalah does, there are forces like the original snake in the Garden of Eden, who was not content on live and let live, wasn't content with Adam and Eve fulfilling their mission and not eating from the forbidden fruit, but wanted specifically Adam and Eve to engage in the very first sin recorded in the Torah, which has to do with, drumroll, eating and drinking. Who would have thought? And what was the sin? Eating something you shouldn't. And what that did was, that was the first time that the energy got misappropriated into the wrong spot. Where energy, I know I spoke about the shvirat hakelim, the shattering of the vessels, but on a very human level, the very first time that energy got misappropriated was with that sin. And the energy, the spark, the potential, instead of being uplifted, in this case through denial of eating this item, was actually misappropriated and implanted within it. So taking divine energy and almost exiling it within something forbidden. And so in essence, Kabbalah looks at the material plane not as a neutral site that is saying, oh, here, take the sparks. But on some level also, there's an element of trying to hold on to the spark and make it difficult to access. So it's almost like we're going in as secret operatives behind enemy lines to go in to get the sparks by pretending we're only here to eat. No big deal. No elevation happening. And then we have the right intention, grab the sparks and bounce. That's kind of what's going on. And the only way to do this, because the first sin of Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, was with eating through the deception of the snake, the only way to get the sparks back is through a mirrored form of deception. And what does that mean? It means that you and I look like we're engaging in the physical activity for just physical reasons, but we have the intention on a deeper level for something higher. Again, it's like Jacob dressing up in the garments of Esau to get the blessings, to extract the blessings. Esau says, no, they need to remain with me. Esau's emblematic, symbolic of the physical reality, materialism. He's the hunter. He's the guy, right? He's the physical, the materialist. So he says, no. Keep the sparks with me. And Jacob goes in, dressed as Esau. Looks like he's gonna, looks like he's gonna be just like everyone else. But he goes in to extract the sparks. Every time we go to work, like everyone else, everyone goes to work. We also go to work. Yeah, but we're going to work with a higher intention. And by the way, the work is going to look different, and it's going to feel different, and people are going to notice it, etc. It's not like we're really getting away with it. I mean, even Isaac said to Jacob, that your hands are Esau's hands, but your voice is Jacob's voice. It's also discerned that it's a little bit different, that the voice is the voice of Jacob. But that's how we get it. Now, let's do this inside. Let's read this. I think we're at the point where we can read this inside ourselves. It's very powerful, and hopefully it really will click and put all the pieces together. Please take and pass. Send a few down this way as well. Probably have a few extra copies, but for the sake of expediency, we'll just send them both ways. Okay. Let's jump in to the text. I'm going to pull this up online.
Thank you.
If you ended up with 2 copies, congratulations. Today is your lucky day. All right. We are up to Hidden Intentions on page 64. Wasn't there a $64,000 question show?
Yes.
Was that a thing?
Yes.
Oh, you know what my favorite show was? All time. Also, yeah, Price is great. But there's another one that I can't remember the name, but it was like no big whammy, press, you hit something and no whammies. No whammy or something. No? Someone Googled it. You remember that?
I mean, I remember no whammy.
No whammy.
I have no idea.
I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
Like little gremlins were the whammies or something.
I just remember the word.
Someone Google this while we study Kabbalah, please. I won't consider it a distraction, but rather a blessing. All right, now let's do this. Let me share my screen with everybody. Share my screen for those on Zoom. And here we go. Hidden Intentions. You guys ready? Let's do this. We're going to do like a page or so of the text and hopefully, again, solve all the problems. When a person deals with the physical, and the example should sound familiar, whether by eating, drinking, or doing business. It's almost like we were learning this stuff. The true intent is hidden. Now, let me explain. When he says when a person deals with these physical things, the true intent is hidden, that means when you're doing it with the spiritual mindset. Okay? While praying, this is referring to now in the morning before we eat breakfast, before we go to work, etc. While praying, he contemplates and resolves. I have to apologize. My computer was on mute this whole time. So if anybody online said anything up until now, I did not hear it. But I have now unmuted my computer. You guys heard me, but I couldn't hear anyone else. All right, while praying, he contemplates and resolves to deal with the physical in a proper manner and with the intent that it is for the sake of heaven. Hold on, that line is like, I know it's between 2 pages, but it's so important. That means that when do you make the decision that this day is going to be a day of mindfulness, that this day is going to be a day of deeper intentionality, that I'm not just going to eat, I'm not just going to drink, I'm not just going to go to work, but I'm going to do all of those things with a higher intention. When do we make that decision? In the morning when we pray to God. That's one of the utilities, that's one of the purposes of davening every single morning, praying in the morning. Some of it is, we spoke last week about vulnerability and connecting to God, but it's also about, on a very pragmatic level, dedicating ourselves this day that the physical things that I'm going to be doing with a higher intentionality in mind. I'm not just going to work. I'm going to work for a higher purpose. I'm not just going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm going to do so again for a higher purpose. I'm not just going to meet up with friends later, but I'm going to make sure that that also has a higher utility. Something that bespeaks a higher truth and a higher purpose for. I'm not just here to eat, drink, and die. That's not the purpose of life. Oh, and work somewhere in the middle. I mean, that's a very sad thought. We're here to transform the world into a better place. And we do that with every physical encounter. Because you know what? You can't transform the world without connecting with the world. How do you transform the world and not be engaged with the world? How do you transform food while not eating? Guess what? You can't. The only way to transform it is when you're engaged with it. That's why that's why the spiritual path of Kabbalah is so radically different than other spiritual paths. Other spiritual paths will say, you want to be spiritual, you got to get rid of the physical. To be spiritual means you have to get away from the physical. And so, as I've said so many times, what's the ultimate holy grail of spirituality? You go away, banish yourself to the top of a mountain and fast and don't talk and don't engage and no relationships, nothing physical, etc. And then you're high and spiritual. And Judaism says it's the opposite. Because being spiritual is about transforming the world, and you can only transform the world by being engaged in it. It doesn't mean, see, there's always been this false dichotomy. The false dichotomy was either you're a spiritualist or a hedonist. That's it. Choose one. So everyone who has a modicum of spirituality says, oh, physical is ugly. Physical is coarse. So forget that. We're going to be spiritual. And Kabbalah says, what are we doing here? What's happening here? Why did we draw this false line of either or? Why can't it be that I'm eating mindfully? L'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. Why can't that be the thing? Not why can't it be the thing. That is the purpose of life, is to elevate the physical world. That's why we're here, to find the sparks and elevate them. And that means that I engage in the world. But what gives me the koach, what gives me the power every day to do so? It's my morning prayer. That's what sets my intention for the day. That's what sets me on the right path, that this day is going to be a day in which the physical things that I do are going to be imbued with a higher purpose. I decide that in the morning, and will I be successful in every conversation, in every moment of the day? Likely not, because I'm not a tzaddik. I'm not perfect. But I have a better shot than if I'm not even thinking about it in the first place. So when do I think about it? Not while I'm eating a bagel. What's going to trigger that thought in the midst of the physical action? I have to get myself in that mindset when I'm in a spiritual mindset so that I can transfer that over to the physical things that I do. Does that make sense? That's the purpose of prayer. So now let's get back inside. I know that's just that's the long explanation of that one line. I want to start again from the bottom of 64 and then go back to 66. While praying in the morning, first thing in the day, the person contemplates and resolves to deal with the physical in a proper manner and with the intent that it is for the sake of heaven. However, let's go. 66. However, when he actually is involved in business, he deals with the physical things. And the true intent, i.e., the lasting impression of his prayer, is hidden at that time. Meaning, when you're involved in work, you're working. And what about the purpose? It's there. It's there. It's in the back. You know why you're doing it, but it's in the back of your mind. It's not in the front. Front and center is the work that you're doing. Front and center is the email that you're writing, or the person you're speaking to, or the deal that you're closing. That's front and center. Right? Front and center is the work that you're doing. But underlying all of that, because you have that premise, that foundation of tefillah, of prayer in the morning, underlying that, the hidden motivation of all this is for a higher purpose. Let's continue. All that can be seen, meaning to the outside, is that he's eating, drinking, and doing business, investing his mind and emotions into it, albeit without being stubborn or excessive, God forbid. At that time, while the person is eating, drinking, or doing business, at that time, he is comparable to Esau. And the divine intent in his activity is hidden, meaning no one else would ever know. No one would know the real reason why you're doing work. No one would know the real reason why you're eating. No one would know why you really invited your friends over, to watch the Steelers most likely lose tonight to the Ravens at 8:05 p.m. on Sunday Night Football with Chris Collinsworth. I'm telling you, it's we're getting ready as the Steelers fans around the world we're steeling ourselves. Two L's. We're bracing ourselves for the inevitable heartbreak. It's Derrick Henry is just a little too tough to stop.
Any given Sunday, whatever.
Yeah. Listen, I'm hopeful.
This is the pregame for the football game tonight.
I just want to say, the whole thing is about that. But meanwhile, why did you really invite everybody over? So that at halftime, you can learn a little Dvar Torah. Something.
Super Bowl Sundays usually. I don't know if you know Sergey Cheripko. He literally has a rabbi.
What does he do? Oh, he has a rabbi. Do you know that there's a kosher Super Bowl halftime show?
What?
Yes. Yes. No, not in the stadium. No, not. Hold on. Let me explain.
Couldn't find a
The-
bagel.
There are people that create every year a kosher Super Bowl halftime show that you can play. It's on YouTube or whatever it is, or some people even do it live, or you just log into some sort of website, and you can get like some spiritual inspiration. I don't know who's performing this year, but whatever. The point is not look. What's the point? The point here is not that eating is who eats. Heathen. Who eats? Neanderthals eat. Or drinking, it's no good. Doing business, you should really just be meditating all day. That's not what's happening here. Eat, drink, and be merry even. But what's the purpose of it? Why? But why are we doing it? Really, the real why. Not just, I'm hungry. Yeah, but what's the real why? If we're set on the real why, then when we engage in these activities, it's not a lower activity, it's a higher activity. But no one will know. No one will know. I mean, trust me, if you have like 20 people over and you rock out the Ura kosher halftime show, they will know. But I'm saying while you're eating the bagel or watching the rest of the game, they might not know. But you know. That's why it's hidden. Let's continue. At that time, I'm going to do that line right after parentheses again. At that time, he is comparable to Esau, and the divine intent in his activity is hidden. His intent is revealed only later when he utilizes the energy gained from eating or the earnings from business for prayer and Torah study. That's when everyone sees what's happening. You knew it the whole time because you knew that although you're showing up to work like everybody else, you're showing up like a spiritual warrior. You're not showing up just as some person who's got to go to work. You're showing up. You look like that maybe on the outside, but on the inside, you're a spiritual warrior. You know, you're like a secret agent. You know that you need to go in behind enemy lines, as it were, right? To get the sparks, to fulfill the purpose. How else are you going to get the resources if you're not in the machine? You got to get it from the machine. You got to get into it. So you know that. When is it visible? It's visible later on when you actually convert that potential into actual spiritual profit. When you pray, when you study, when you do a mitzvah, when you give tzedakah, that's when the conversion happens. So there's three parts to this. There's the foundation or the setup, which is the prayer in the morning. There's the actual, and that's for what? How long is that? 30 minutes? You could even do 5 or 10 if you want. It's just getting in the right mindset. Then the bulk of the day is eating, drinking, working. The bulk of the day. Right? And then the third element is when the flip happens. And how long is the Torah study and how long is the prayer, after that, and how long is the mitzvah? Also relatively much shorter. But that's when the tachlis happens. That's when the purpose happens. By the way, in life, it's the same concept. I mean, how much of our life is spent on things that you and I would say is not like the purpose of life, as opposed to the things that are really, really important, right? How many of our conversations throughout the day are the conversations that we need to have, not the ones that we want to have, right? Isn't the bulk of our lives doing the stuff that we kind of need to in order to get that, and not really like the end, the tachlis, like the end? That's the way it is. But what Kabbalah does is it makes the means to an end also an end, sort of. Because when you're cognizant that it's a means to an end, to a higher end, that fulfills its purpose also. There's purpose in that moment that's being fulfilled. But no one else knows. Because you're there in your suit and tie or whatever you're wearing, whatever it is, you're there and you look like everyone else. Right? Mark, you got your doctor, you got your medical gear on and like everyone else. But in your mind, you know that you're here for a different reason. You're here for a different purpose. There's a spiritual yield that can be Elijah the prophet. Huh?
No.
Okay. Hoping it's scaring anyone off.
Open and close.
That's it. Open and shut case. there's a spiritual yield here. There's a spiritual bounty here that needs to be pulled out. There's only one way to do it. Let's continue. He does so in a cunning manner, the way swindlers artfully hide their intent so as not to become exposed. Look at that. You don't tell the food, I'm here to elevate you. I don't mean any harm. I'm just going to eat you. That's not what happens. You eat it like everyone else, like a normal person. But your intent is different. That's what it means to be cunning. Hashtag, we are all con artists. Spiritual, the spiritual art of spiritual con artery. All right, none of that made sense. He does so in a cunning manner, the way swindlers artfully hide their intent, so it's not going to suppose. Let's continue. He seemingly follows his opponent. Oh, so how does the cunning swindler work? He seemingly follows his opponent's ways and wishes, capturing his trust and making him reveal all that lies in his heart. However, when it comes down to the bottom line, this is still the analogy, by the way. However, when it comes down to the bottom line, he remains adamant about his own wishes, contrary to that of his opponent. He only makes him think that he's aligned with him, but really he's got a different intention. That's what it means typically to con someone. Well, the same is true regarding Birurim. Birurim means the spiritual activity of refining, elevating, capturing, reconnecting the sparks that we've been speaking about. Throughout the day, he seemingly follows the wishes of his animal soul. This clarifies your question, maybe in a different way. Who are we swindling? The animal soul that's a partner to our godly soul. That answers your question better than I answered it. In other words, who are we misrepresenting to? Not necessarily the bagel, but the animal soul who's like, let's go at the bagel because we're hungry. You're like, yeah, let's do it. You're like, watch this. Watch me pull a rabbit out of the hat. Right? Throughout the day, he seemingly...
Pull the mouse out of the pocket.
That's right. Throughout the day, he seemingly follows the wish of his animal soul. He eats, drinks, and goes about doing his business. Thus, he extracts, meaning in truth, he extracts the nitzotza from the sparks. But when it comes down to the bottom line, during prayer, he reveals that his only desire is godliness and that he has absolutely no interest in the physical. His entire intent is for the sake of heaven alone. Wow, they should have called this book All for the Sake of Heaven. Oh, wait. They did. Thus, he acted with cunning and deceit. To the animal soul, it seems like you're giving in to what it wants. Oh, you want a steak? You want a, whatever it is. Great. I also want it. But meanwhile, you have a different agenda. Let's continue. He needs to accomplish the refinement precisely in this manner. Why? Why the need for cunning and deception? Since the nitzotot, the sparks, initially fell into the sitra achra, that means the other side, the side of unholiness, because of the artfully cunning deceit of the nachash hakadmoni, which means the original snake, the ancient snake. You know which one that is? Adam and Eve snake. Therefore, he too must accomplish the refinement and take back the nitzotza by way of cunning and deceit. My friends, all the pieces have fallen into place. We started off this journey by wondering about Jacob and what's his deal. Not only today's journey, months ago. Jacob, this guy, wow. Our patriarch Jacob really knew how to misrepresent. And what we're learning now is that hashtag. People still say that? I don't know if they do. Hashtag, we are...
6-0.
Oh my God.
Everyone's trying. Look at this guy. That's trauma right there. Look at this guy.
It's like, how are you doing today? I was like, what are you doing?
You actually deal with that?
Like my daughter.
Okay, well, your kids is different.
This is a real life situation.
She cannot explain what she's doing. That's like, explain to me, what does
That's
it mean?
the new generation.
No idea. Everybody's doing it. I was like,
Do you know there's a custom not to make kiddush between 6 and 7? On Friday, no, that's a real thing, by the way.
There you go. That's the explanation.
Anyway, back to the story. We started off by wondering what's the deal with the deceit. Why the duplicity? Why not just go to Isaac and say, look, you want to give the blessings to Esau. He's not a good guy. He's not going to utilize the blessings for the right purpose. Give it to Jacob. He'll know what to do with it. He'll get it done. He's the right guy. He's the right man for the job. Just be upfront about it. Why the need to like pretend? Why the need for Jacob to dress up like Esau? And now we're learning something so important. And you know what we're learning? We're learning that hashtag, right? 6-7. We are all Jacob, which means that he really, in a sense, charted the path and set the script for what we do.
This is actually between chapter 6 and chapter 7, by the way. Just so
Are
you know.
you serious?
Yeah.
Do we really? Do we just?
Oh my God.
It is chapter 6-7?
Yep.
Oh yeah, literally. Can't make this stuff up. When it aligns, it just aligns.
Exactly.
So here's the big idea. The big idea is that we're all Jacob. And like Jacob, there is potential and there's sparks and there's godliness and there's holiness that's waiting to be taken. But you can't go at it with a straightforward way and say, hey, I'm here to grab the sparks. Knock, knock. Hey, I'm here to take your sparks from you. The animal soul will kick and scream. It's going to provide all sorts of, forget the world. I use that. I took that angle before, but clearly what he's taking is even within a person themselves, the animal soul or the evil inclination is going to put up such a fight and such a battle so as to block that from happening. Because just think about how hard it is to set aside time for prayer, which is an overtly spiritual activity. We know what that looks like. And you know where the animal soul does not put up a fight? For bagels. That's where that becomes so valuable, to utilize those moments in which we can convince the animal soul that, oh, this is totally about you, right? This is totally about you, animal soul. You're going to love this. Meanwhile, we have a higher intention. That's what's really going on here. So, yeah.
No, I just find it difficult to digest all of this. And I mean, I'm almost thinking, eat a bagel, do a double mitzvah. You're eating, you're giving the bagel a mitzvah.
Yes.
You're getting,
Yes.
and you're eating and you're having
Yeah.
a mitzvah.
Eat a bagel. That's why Jewish mothers have
Here's
always
a
said,
small-
eat another bagel. What do you
Bible
mean?
bagel.
Take another bagel. Okay, so what's the point? The point is, in our lives, the takeaway for this week, and by the way, next week we're going to get to a higher level. Next week, chapter 7 of the 6-7 tag team. Chapter 7, if you notice, begins with, nevertheless, this method of refining is immature. In other words, this is only one way. This is the Yaakov way. But we know that he got another name, which is Yisrael. And Yisrael means that he conquered. He's no longer needing to work by treachery. Ki sarita emelakim. What's that? Yacholta. Right? You wrestled with the divine and you won. Meaning you're no longer wrestling. You're no longer needing to engage in duplicity. Duplicitousness, whatever it's called. So the point is, this is one method. I think for most of us, this is the opening act. Right? Where we engage in physical things and we tell ourselves it's just, it's normal and whatever, and it's but hopefully we have a higher intention. So this homework for this week, spiritual work for this week. Don't worry, it's not going to count on your final grade. Oh, yes, it will. I'm kidding. But no, really, the work for this week
Are you
is,
conning us?
huh?
Are you conning us?
No, not at all. I'm being very upfront. Is to engage in all three of these points. Number one, whether it's every day or one day this week over the next 7 days, find some time in the morning first thing for some prayer, meditative thought, and centering and mindful intention, really setting your intention for the day. Recognizing I'm not here just to exist. I'm not just an animal. It's not just like if I see something I have to do. I'm higher level. I'm a thinking creature. I have the ability to recognize what I'm here for, what my purpose is. I have the ability to be a mensch. I don't have to be a slave to my desires. I can mindfully think. So that's number one. Remind yourself of who you are and your abilities. And then remind yourself, what's the purpose? Why am I here? Just to eat, drink, and be merry? That gets old after a little while, right? Maybe, when we're young, that sounds great. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, now what? So number one is pray and set the intention. The intention for this day is going to be to utilize my opportunities this day, whether it's eating, drinking, business, people, meeting, whatever it is. Today, it's going to be something, every encounter is going to be something for a higher purpose. And then when you engage in the activity, go all in. Don't forget why. Keep that in the back of your mind. But when you engage, You're eating, you're drinking, you're working, you're meeting, whatever you're doing, you're doing. But keep that in your mind. And then when you have those opportunities to elevate it, take those opportunities and certainly use the energy from the food and the drink and the profits from the work. You utilize that for a higher purpose, and that completes the cycle. Make sense? If we did every day like this, can you imagine what the world would look like? It'd be a cool place. But we can do it. The power's in our hand. It's just a choice. But it all begins with awareness.
I don't know, I was thinking, I know it was all preordained, but would it have worked if Rebecca and Isaac had said to Esau, you have to give the blessing, or you should give the blessing to your brother because he is more equipped to handle it, and you have not shown yourself to be the one. Would Esau have worked on becoming a better person? Or would he have felt more rejection from his parents and set up more anger?
It's a good question. I think ultimately we'll never know because that never happened. I think the way the story kind of indicates is that he wasn't capable of doing the refinement, maybe even in hearing that message that he needs that type of refinement.
Rebecca did what she knew she had to do.
Yeah. And she kind of, and you know what? The father, as we said earlier in this book, the father thought that he could hit him with another blessing, and maybe, that'll get him going. Just keep on investing in him. Maybe eventually it'll pay off. And his mother said, his wife, Rebecca, Esau's mother said, it's not going to work. Yeah. This is not going to work. This is throwing good money after bad, or bad money after whatever the language is. Good money after bad. It's like we're just going to keep on. It's still not going to work. So we got to get it to the right source. But that's what we said before. But the core idea of today is actually really powerful. Is that you and I might look like we're living a normal life, but we're meant to be living a secret life. In a good way, not in a weird, bad way. It's not like, oh yeah, I live this secret, weird, goofy life. No, but like genuinely, באמת, like truthfully, we're normal people living a normal life amongst the world. We're living your physical life like everyone else, but everything should have a bit of a higher intention, and no one has to know about it. You have to know it.
What was it? Something you said earlier. The name Jacob means what?
Yeah,
Israel means what?
Jacob means struggle, heal. It means wrestling. It means fighting. It means duplicitness, whatever it is. It means It means this type of subterfuge that we're speaking of.
And
Israel means Sarkel, minister of God. It's having defeated the battle. It's no longer struggling.
Oh, okay.
So it's emblematic of not having to wrestle anymore, not having to do that whole thing. So we haven't spoken about this yet, like what that means for us. Next week we'll start that. So he's going to create a new paradigm of someone who goes in and says up front, "I'm here to take your sparks." Right? I'm here. I'm straight up. I'm here for the spiritual gain. But most of us, certainly at the beginning of our work, are in the place of the physical, and for us, it's as much a struggle for us to get ourselves on board as it is to get the effect.
It's also, it seems like you're responsible for more than just you.
Yeah.
And being Jewish is kind of like that. I mean, if something happens in Israel and they do something remarkable, somebody who's not Jewish will come up to me and say congratulations,
right? Or
vice versa,
right?
Or there's a crime and somebody's on TV and you think, oh, I hope that person wasn't Jewish,
right?
Even though it has nothing to do with you,
right? So
you've got a responsibility to a bigger.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. Yeah, there's a responsibility amongst ourselves, and there's also responsibility to your point, to the world at large. And I think everyone has that responsibility. That's what Torah is trying to teach us, and Kabbalah is trying to teach us, that we all have that responsibility for the larger world. And we're not just, you see, I think so often secular society or Western, what culture, I don't know what it is, whatever it is, the overarching idea that's put out there is that, oh no, you live for yourself, right? You're number one, live for yourself, live whatever you need, like you deserve it, and like a very selfish way of living. And Judaism encourages us to look a little bit beyond that. Eat and drink. Don't deprive yourself. But do so with a bit of a higher intent, to be of service, whether it's to the food, to elevate it where it can't go on its own. Look, a bagel can't study Torah. It just can't. It doesn't. It cannot study divine wisdom. You and I can, with the assistance of a bagel, and that lifts the bagel up to studying Torah also. I know I talked about it earlier, but maybe I'm saying a little bit more direct now. A bagel cannot study Torah. It just can't. There's nothing about it that can study the Word of God. It can't. But when we eat the bagel and we take its energy and then we study Torah, it's part of that. And that's an incredible opportunity that we have. It's a zchut. It's a merit that we have, and an achrayut, and a responsibility that we have. And that happens in a way that we don't tell the animal soul necessarily up front, like this is what we're intending to do. We tell the animal soul, hey, we're hungry, right? Let's go eat. Meanwhile, I want to end with one story. I know it's late, but you all seem to be a non-hostile crowd, so I'll press my luck forward. No whammies. I think it was called Press Your Luck. That might have been the name of it.
Press Your
Was
Luck.
it
Press Your Luck, that's it.
Oh, thank you, Frank. Finally.
I said it earlier, but you didn't.
I put it in the chat.
Oh, you did put it in the chat. Okay. Maybe I did see it. Press Your Luck is the game show. I love that show. They got to bring that back. Maybe it wasn't great, but I just have good memories of it. Okay, so one more story. The Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, once was exploring the question of why is it that on a holiday, food is such an important theme. Like every Jewish holiday is associated with the food. You know, Rosh Hashanah is apples and honey and pomegranates, whatever. Yom Kippur, okay, we don't eat. But then you have Sukkot.
But after Yom
And
Kippur,
before, Erev and post. It's like, oh my gosh, there's always food. And the simple answer is, I don't know, Jews like food, like everyone else. So anyone know the comedian Sebastian
Maniscalco, yeah.
Scalco? He's funny.
He's hilarious.
He's hilarious. So I think he's married to a Jewish woman. So he has a bit about Passover. He's like,
He almost has like Jewish humor.
he almost has Jewish
Very
humor.
much
So he
like
talks about how he
sarcastic.
goes to the Seder
Mhm.
and he's starving. And he's like, I'm starving. Like how he speaks. He's so good. And then he's like, and there they put out this little vegetable, and there's no food, and they're doing all this talking. And blah, blah, blah. Like, it's hilarious. He's like, they got to get the Italians on the menu for Passover. There's some good food here. Like after you finally, what are you eating? A crunchy matzah? Like seriously, matzah tastes like the box. That's my addition. But anyway, back to the story.
Matzah tastes like the box.
Matzah tastes
And then
like, you wouldn't even know.
There you go.
I've told the story before. My wife, growing up in South Africa, so there was once a guest over at the house, and you know the sandwich, the matzah sandwich at some point in the Seder where you put the lettuce, the marar in your thing, whatever. And this person had put a napkin behind it. Okay, so you have the sandwich and a napkin behind it to eat it. They got finished. There was a hole in the napkin. You would never know. And you would never know because there was no change to texture or taste with additional napkin. It's just the equivalent experience. That it is, right? Especially the hammy matzah. Okay, it's like a burnt box, but it's still a box, essentially. Back to the story. So the Alter Rebbe asked the question, why is it that every Jewish holiday and Shabbat even is filled with food? So he gave an example. He gave an analogy. He said, imagine there was once a king. I mean, back in Russia when there was a czar and everything, that was like, if you were looking for an analogy, you went with king prince analogy. That was like your right. So the king has a son, the prince, and the prince one day is going to take over the kingdom. And the king is a good king, and he wants his son to be a good king. But how is the son going to know anything about being a king if he doesn't know the people? If he grows up in the palace and has no connection with the people who live in the country. So he says to his son at the age of 18, he says, I got to kick you out of the palace for a year. You gotta live amongst the people. You gotta know, and you have to like earn your way. You have to know what it's like to live amongst, because if you only live a privileged life, you're gonna be a corrupt king. You're gonna let them eat cake. Remember that line from someone? There you go. So like you have to know the people. You have to get out there. So 18, he's kicked out of the house. Not kicked out of the house. Sorry, he's sent away into the kingdom. Father gives him a little bit of money to get started, but he's like, you gotta figure this out. He's working hard. He can't tell anyone that he's the prince, because that's not fair. Because then he's going to be treated well, and he has to live amongst the people and not blow his cover. 3 months in, he gets a letter, finally, first communication. This is before cell phones. Can you imagine? He gets a letter from his father. Dear son, I hope it's going well. I love you. I haven't forgotten about you. When you're done with this, I can't wait to have you back. But like really giving him chizuk, encouragement. And he gets this letter, and it's been hard 3 months. Certainly coming from the lifestyle he grew up with, Xbox and everything. So he gets this letter, and he is so overjoyed. Like he does it and he needs to celebrate. But how do you celebrate? What do you do? Will you tell everybody that you're the king, you're the prince, and like come party with me? It's not going to work. So he goes to the bar, the local tavern, and he says to the bartender, "A round of drinks on me." And everybody says, "Wow, great. Okay." And he does another round, and everybody's partying. And they're partying because of the alcohol, and he's partying because he's the prince. They're partying for the booze, and he's partying because he has a kesha. He's connected with the king. And the Alter Rebbe says that's what happens on a holiday. The soul wants to celebrate, but the soul can't celebrate on its own. It's got to get the body on board, because how does the soul celebrate on its own? It needs the body to celebrate. So it says to the body, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? A little food, a little drink. You got excited? Perfect. Let me get you excited with the food and the drink. In the meantime, I'm celebrating because it's a holiday. It's a day of greater connection with God Almighty. And I think for all of us, it's kind of like recreating that every day, where we give the body, we tell the body, here's a bagel. But in truth, it's because the bagel has a spark inside. Can you imagine if we lived like this intentionally every day? It'd be a game changer. Thank you very much for joining me today for Kabbalah Café. And hope this made sense. Hope you enjoyed it. And Natalie, welcome. First Kabbalah class here, at least.
Yeah.
Have you studied Kabbalah before?
Yeah, a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, I lived in Israel for a year.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you go. Israel, the birthplace. It's called Tzfat.
She's actually born
in Israel.
You're where?
Afula.
Nice. You speak Hebrew?
I understand it, but I don't want to speak.
So you can understand this guy?
We're not going to talk in Hebrew about her.
Oh, right. To clarify, that's out.
My kids, it's like, we're not going to talk about her in Hebrew.
It's not safe. Welcome. Very nice to meet you. And it's great to have everybody here. Okay, we are, holidays are over. New Year is here. 2026 is here. We're getting off to a good start. Thank God. We should be fairly consistent. I don't know of any reason why we wouldn't be meeting every Sunday until, Passover. If there's anything that comes up, I'll let you guys know. Otherwise, expect every week we're here. One thing to note is that we're not going to be in this specific room. Typically, we'll be in the multi-purpose room by the school. But anyway, that's the deal.
So eat the bagel, but don't eat two bagels.
Eat the bagel, but don't let the bagel eat you.
Right.
Don't let the bagel. Oh, 1 second.
Snake tell you to eat.
Exactly. Don't do it because of the snake. A few quick announcements. Very important announcements. My brother-in-law, some of you may know, is the singer, is the soulful tenor Yuri Cohen. So we've lost the crowd. So tomorrow, for our Taste and Torah Club lunch, he will be performing some musical songs, Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, and some others. That's going to be an additional beautiful thing for the lunch. And what else is happening this week? We have Monday, as usual. Tuesday, as usual. Wednesday, we're not starting it. Thursday, lunch at the Dupree. Lunch and learn at the Dupree is happening, and then I don't know. We got a week. We got a good week coming up. All right. Dr. Alex, good to see you. Dr. Maxie, good to see you. Sarah, good to see you. Alexa, Yaakov, and I don't know who Zoom user is, but I'm glad that you're here. I don't know your name, but I'm glad that you're here. Good to see you, Tova. As always. All right, we'll see you all.
Have a good
Take
one.
care. Sei gesund. We'll see